One final time, a win for Husker Nation.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, it's DP, Derrick, Pearson, 93.7 The Ticket, Lincoln, America, home of the Fighting Huskers of the University of Nebraska. Thank you, folks, for making Locked On Huskers, Locked On Go Big Red, your first watch. Listen each and every single day. Thanks for hanging out with us here in this space. Greatly appreciate it. Thank the folks from Locked On Sports Network for allowing us to do this. We'll thank the folks from BetOnline for providing all of the entertainment things that we need. This is where the game begins. BetOnline. The numbers that jump out: Maryland, 14-point favorite over Rutgers, and a little bit interesting. The over/under is 49 there. 57 is the over/under for Ohio State and Michigan, with Ohio State being favored by 7.5. And of course, the Huskers, 10.5-point underdog against Iowa, which could be interesting and could adjust and change a little. Here's why. And we'll talk about a couple of things, necessary things for the Huskers to do, that recipe that we're familiar with and comfortable with. And we'll just go through it again because we'll remember what's required, what's required and what's needed. But the news that Sam LaPorta, Iowa's best player on offense, won't play today. Suffered a leg injury in the early part of the win against Minnesota. And when you lose your key guy, the guy that makes the chain moves, that makes defenses have to plan and scheme against him, take away the base level things that keeps your offense out of trouble in most situations, he is the wheel that makes it all go. I think for Iowa fans, there would be some concern that 50-plus catches are off the table, some 27 first-down receptions off the table. The offense is based on tight end being isolated and put in space. A lot of the route combinations that they ran for LaPorta were single route combinations with the rest of the receivers in rub situations where they're just trying to create space for LaPorta to get open and then for him to get upfield once he's made the catch. Also, a big part of this offense is the fullback, and I will be without fullback one as well. So what does that mean for Nebraska? It means that a lot of the keys that have been set in place over the course of the week for what to look for, where your eye should be, where your concern should be, they change a little only in that LaPorta's not there. Now, they're going to rely on whoever they put in that space, and they've got 3 or 4 tight ends that they use in that space that they can use as pass receiver one in this offense. But it's not the same. It's not the same. He is the rely on. He is the layup that they've used throughout the course of the season and his career to keep the offense on the field, giving the quarterback kind of a safety that he can go to and dump the ball off and get the ball out of his hand and not have to be under pressure. It's important. This is an important thing to note. It'll spread out Nebraska's defense a little, but it'll also put them in a better situation where they can get pressure on Iowa's quarterback and then focus on the run, which is how Iowa stays in games, wins games, is by running the ball with ridiculous consistency and then going to LaPorta to get first downs. Look, Iowa is who they are. They haven't changed what they do. They run the same folks out there. They run the same system that they've run. They're well coached. They're well trained. They're super disciplined in how they go about their business. Offensively, it's an offensive line that is supplemented by tight ends, and tight ends in great numbers. Like they'll run 2-3 tight ends out there just to change keys and focuses on the defense. But ultimately, they want to run the ball, and they try to stay over that 4 yards of carry over the course of drives. And there are drives where they will concede if you hold them under 4 yards of carry, just because it moves the clock and allows them to stay true to who they are. They're not going to get fancy. That's just not who they are. It'll be a battle of field position. And this is where when we get into the keys of the game, we'll talk about the things that have affected this rivalry, especially for the last 4 years. Moments in games where Nebraska had opportunity to get wins in this space. And you're talking about 7 straight wins for Iowa in this series. The last 4 all within one possession. Kirk Ferentz has been loud about their focus, which is to not make mistakes, to play clean games, to not beat themselves up, and then not put themselves in tough situations. And when we get deeper into the keys of the game, which we'll do in the next segment, a lot of this is about doing basic things really well. And they don't even have to do them really well based on recent games with Nebraska. There are games where Nebraska's done the basic things better than Iowa, but then something would jump up and bite Nebraska in the leg, or they would stub their toe, and it would lead to a nightmarish finish. But you can expect a close game. You can expect a one-possession game. It'll come down to things that Nebraska hasn't always done well this season, but they have the skilled players. They have the people in place to do this. This is a different Nebraska team, and they're playing for something that's very important. They're playing for their pride. They're playing. It's the last chance for them to get a win and to go into this offseason with some happiness, some joy. You're playing for each other one final time as this group is collected together. As Casey Thompson said yesterday, this will be no matter what happens in the future, this will be the last time that this roster, as it stands, gets a chance to be successful in what they do. And it is important to them. They have spoken about it in large numbers, that this is the last chance to get right for this roster as it stands, this coaching staff as it stands, this group of players as it stands. I think it'll be worth some points. I think it will show up on the field today. We'll go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about the keys to the game and the things that we can put our eyes to that will tell us whether things are going Nebraska's way against Iowa. Welcome back, DP here, Locked On Huskers, and we greatly appreciate the folks from BetOnline for what they do, providing the best odds, the best props for your entertainment on game day. And it's where the game begins, because it's where you settle in and you start to evaluate the games that you're going to watch today and tomorrow. And as a part of that, Wisconsin and Minnesota in a game that should be interesting to Big Ten fans. Nebraska didn't have much success against either of those teams. They had opportunities to beat both of those teams and didn't. Minnesota will go into this as a 3-point underdog against Wisconsin at Camp Randall. Lots to think about in the Big Ten. It's a big Friday and Saturday here in the Big Ten. Thank again to the folks at BetOnline for what they do. Keys to the game. I want to start with the space in which little things matter the most. And you don't think about special teams until something goes extremely right or extremely wrong. The base level plays don't come into play generally into the thinking of football fans on a game day. Right? It's not necessarily the star players. It's not necessarily the names that you know the best. It's not necessarily the players that you trust the most. But in this situation, these two teams, how they play, field position matters. It absolutely matters. Flipping the field and actually putting these two offenses in tough situations where they have to go 80 yards instead of 60 yards, or making them go 12 plays instead of 3, is important to the outcome of the game at a level that kind of shows what this matchup is. Like, this is a slugfest. This is who can go toe-to-toe, stay true to who they are, not make mistakes, defend the things that they can defend, and then attack at moments that are that seem to be how these games are determined. One final drive, one final stop, getting off the field on third down, and then what happens in those situations where fourth down goes into effect. And these coaches and coordinators have to make a decision about what they're going to do. Big way to turn this game around and to flip it on its head is on the special teams. And both teams have had good years punting the ball. Both of them has had good years in coverage. The question is, can you get plus yardage on punt returns? And who is responsible for it? Nebraska has been very consistent in that there's certain spots on the field where they'll put Trey Palmer back there, and they'll see whether he can move the chains or flip the field a little bit. But if Iowa is kicking from plus yardage on the field and where they can pin Nebraska back, Nebraska goes to Oliver Martin. And quite frankly, he's just been there to catch and fair catch and not get plus yardage. And those are yards left on the field. And in a game where those yards of minutia matter, it's important for Nebraska to get plus yardage on special teams. Kick return has not been the highlight of Nebraska's season. Tommy Hill is now the guy back there, and quite frankly, I think there needs to be some better understanding of when to go and when to stay. The Clash song matters. Shall I stay or shall I go? Giving up plus yardage, ball to 25 with no additional risk, is a simple thing in football. But if a ball is kicked short and you feel like you can get plus yardage beyond the 25, then you take the chance and try to make a big play. Sometimes you have to put responsibility on your second-level guys who are on special teams to make plays and make blocks. And in the last two games, Nebraska on kick returns and punt returns have had holding penalties that put them 10 yards minus from where they should have had the ball. You cannot have penalties on special teams. It's mind-blowing to me. There's a certain level of base discipline that, I get that this is where some of the players get to make their mark on the game, but it has to be a positive mark. You cannot go out and grab and hold on special teams. It just can't be done. It's too much of a risk, and it puts Nebraska in too tough a situation. It's a momentum stealer, and it happened in the last two games that I can think of. Yes, field goal kickers are going to play a big part of this, but the people who run down on kicks and the people who defend on kicks are important, and they have to do their job. And at the top of their job is this: do not cost the offense 10 yards. You can't do it. Right? We'll get our eyes to block punts and that sort of thing because that's going to be important. Like, each team is going to take a chance at some point in the game to put their punt block on to see if they can get home and change the game. Be prepared. Do your job. Everybody on the special team, do your job. No less. No more is required, but no less. Do your job. Be disciplined. Protect your returners and your specialists, your kickers. Do your thing. Make your mark in a positive way, but it cannot be through penalties. But what we imagine is that in this game, a game of one possession, it's going to come down to a special teams play, whether it's a return or a botched catch, a holding penalty in a crucial moment, or missed or made kick. One possession games generally come down to special teams having some impact, and this is one of those games. as well. So as we focus into that. Now, from the offensive side, let's go through the base things that we understand about this Nebraska team. We're going to need a big day from Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson showed that against Wisconsin, he can be a factor with his feet, that he can move. He doesn't have to be running back one, but his ability to pull down the ball and get upfield and get positive yards in negative, what could have been negative situations, is a way for Nebraska to stay on the field offensively, a way for them to get for additional first downs that they would normally leave on the field, and give the defense more time to rest because they're going to be under the duress of an Iowa running game that is constant and consistent. Dead ball penalties are pre-snap penalties are just, listen, Nebraska, those things have to be done. Lining up in the right space, knowing the snap count, being disciplined in the snap count, and then no silly penalties. Like, you can protect Casey Thompson without having to grab and hold and pull somebody to the ground. We understand that. Holding on the defensive side, we'll talk about when we come back. But quite frankly, this offense has to have a running game that's positive. It has to be effective. You've got to stay on the field on third down. Give yourself another rotation. Give your defense time to chill. But big plays to Trey Palmer are mandatory. I expect a big day from Travis Vokolek, and then passes out of the backfield to Anthony Grant and Ramir Johnson. Those are things that Gabe Urban, those things have to be in play for Nebraska to have success offensively. Vital keys, but run the damn ball. Necessary. Absolutely necessary. That'll be it for this segment. We'll come back and we'll close out and prepare you for those final words that need to get you ready for a Nebraska win against Iowa. DP here, Locked On Huskers. And again, I thank you for hanging out with us each and every single day to come and get Husker content. Thank the folks from BetOnline for what they do. Again, gracious numbers. 10.5 is the number that you can pay attention to. BetOnline, where the game begins. I want to thank you for sharing this content, for subscribing so you get the notice on when these episodes go up, and these podcast episodes go up. Greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. And it's been an interesting football season from beginning to end. Opportunity is the word that I like to use about this program and this team. It's Friday. They'll have one more opportunity. Whether it's for themselves, the pride that comes from knowing that all the work you put in will end in a successful effort against Iowa, whether it's for the coaching staff that you want to play for to show that the work that they've put in matters and it shows up on a game day with a win, whether it's for the fan base that has stayed loyal and true, even though things haven't gone the way anybody wants them to go. They'll be in their red today because their red burns brighter. They will stand together one final time for this season, and they will lock arms and be a fort for you and be support for you. Nebraska has an opportunity one more time to finish this thing the right way. The right way is ending a winning streak against your neighbor, who has won 7 straight games against you. And it's time. It's time for this team, this program, to have success against Iowa. Is it necessary? Yeah, I'd say. Go into this thing as though it's necessary. Win is mandatory. A change of direction, a change of energy, a change of the temperature in the room when it comes to this football program and this team. We'll deal with coaching changes and roster changes later. But today, we'll stand together as only Nebraska fans can do. Stand together one final time. Lock those arms. Chant to yourselves, Husker power. Husker power. And then, at the end of that, throughout the course of the day, stand united, saying those 3 words that we love so much, with this time it being from victory. We'll close it with the 3 words that matter so much. Go Big Red.